Hazy, if your boy Saquon Barkley wonders why he didn't get some kind of mega deal, today's why.
Mm-hmm.
Today's why. MRI, he's going to be out for 3 weeks. It's like he's always hurt. And you wonder why you're not getting, as a running back, some big package.
That's right. Yep, that was the concern. That's why running backs are getting franchise tagged. That's why they're getting lowballed, because there isn't faith they're going to stay healthy. There isn't faith that you can build a winning program exclusively around a superstar running back. And Barkley's a great player.
He is,
great
man.
player,
He's
great
unreal.
talent.
And he's a massive part of the offense.
Yeah.
Like, a lot runs through him.
But they're in big trouble. Like, they're at San Francisco on Thursday. Like, short week, home opener for the Niners.
Your boy Al Michaels, though, he's getting some games. Last year, he had some stinker.
Yeah.
He probably went to Goodell himself and said, don't even think about it.
Well,
I'm Al Michaels.
They put him on some tough broadcasts.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think there's a good chance that's a blowout on Thursday. Like Danny Dimes is going to be running for his life on Thursday night.
Got a win yesterday, though.
Yeah, he did, and a big comeback win.
Yeah.
I give him a lot of credit. They were skunked at the half again. They hadn't scored a point through 3 halves of football.
It was ugly.
It was, and Danny Dimes played really well in the second half. Arizona's a really terrible team, but now no Barkley, short week across the country. I don't see how the Giants keep that close. So Al Michaels, he's got to dance, and like you feel for Michaels because he's one of the all-time greats. If not the greatest football voice of all time. He's a phenomenal.
He's still I think he could do it for another 10 years.
Possibly, but the energy, like, people are on top of him now. And there might be an element of, like, ageism for that because they're waiting for him to fall off.
Right.
Because he's had a couple of calls in recent years, like last year, where you're like, man, Al, that was a big moment. It kind of sounded routine for you.
Right.
And yet he sounds like Al Michaels. He oozes football. I think he and Herbstreit are a really good pair. Like, I like Kirk Herbstreit a lot calling games. But Michaels is not a young man. You know, he's been calling games for a long time. And, you know, people are getting on him. Like, it's kind of tough to see. Social media starts turning on legends. And especially in a job like that, where it is about energy, it is about being on top of things.
78 years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's like when Bob Cole was calling, like, his last couple of years, people would start really getting on Cole because he'd mispronounce some names. He'd miss, you know, who was actually in the play. And you're like, man, like Bob Cole, the same thing. Like an absolute legend who just sounded like hockey. Sounded like hockey night. Yeah. Not even just hockey. Sounded like hockey night. Yes.
Unreal, sitting in the like, one of my favorite memories of playing for the Leafs was to be able to sit with Bob in the locker room and just talk, like, have a hockey conversation for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like on a Saturday?
Yeah, on a Saturday. You come in the room and just sit down and yeah, it was like better than Duthie coming in there and sitting down.
Well, Duthie doesn't do play-by-play.
No,
like, Duthie wouldn't be
but
in there.
But it was a really special thing for Bob to come in and just sometimes he'd ask you, like, what's this guy's name? What's his last name? How do you say it?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know.
That's the toughest part.
It was fun. It was a fun thing to do, to sit with him and have combos.
Was Harry Neal still in the booth with him at that point? Yeah.
Yeah. And then Harry did the Leafs Network games with Bonesy.
That's right.
I feel like Harry's in Buffalo. Is he not? I've run into him there at the rink.
Yeah, Harry goes
he
to
lives
a lot
in
of the
Buffalo.
Sabres games.
I run into him. Like, I ran into him last year. He's great.
Right.
You know, to have a little chat.
I think he's been living in Buffalo for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Like, because he coached in Buffalo, right, at some point?
Yeah, he's awesome to have a stop and chat.
Oh, yeah. Harry Neal's
legend.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think Harry Neal was, like, cream of the crop when it came to, like, the color guy.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I went to a guy named Howie Meeker's hockey school.
Howie Meeker, of course.
Remember Howie Meeker?
Absolutely.
Like, that was pretty cool. He had a hockey school, must have traveled throughout the country, but I went attended Howie Meeker's hockey school.
I like it. Howie
famous
Meeker.
Jason Strudwick's.
Just almost as famous, almost as good as Struddy's.
As famous, but yeah.
Yeah, Howie
cool.
Meeker, Dick Irvin. Like, there were just some legendary hockey night names.
Yep.
That were around forever, and everyone knew, like, if they were there, there was bright lights, it was go time, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was Bob Cole and Harry Neal, just two of the all-time greats.
Now, does Joe Buck take a lot of heat? Like, I like Joe Buck.
I think
know
Buck
him.
is phenomenal. I think he's great.
Like, he's St. Louis guy. He used to hang around with us.
Everyone takes heat. Like if you're on a major broadcast, there are going to be people that dislike you.
But isn't it Buck and Aikman?
Part of the hate program,
take
man.
a lot of heat, right?
It's part of the hate program, no matter what. Like I try to say it to people because they'll come up to me with random thoughts and they're like, they'll pick the nicest person and be like, that guy you work, I can't stand that guy. And it's like, everybody hates somebody. It's just the way it is. People hate all three of us. They hate us individually. There's just, when you do this on a daily basis like we do, I tell everybody, I'm like, well, why do you hate that guy? He's the nicest guy. I don't know. There's something about him. I just hate his guts.
Yeah.
Well,
everybody hates somebody in this gig. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I understand that we're different because we give opinions. We give sharp opinions. We joke around. We goof on different people in different situations. But like a play-by-play guy is just calling the play.
I know.
Like I can understand it if he's not very good. That's one thing. But like, there's no disputing Joe Buck is great.
Al Michaels
is great. It's when you're talking like the cream of the crop.
No kidding. And God forbid you change over. Like Matty D is one of the best broadcasters in the world.
Yes.
And when he does a Jays game, I love Matt Devlin doing a Jays game.
Mm-hmm.
But a guy will hit a homer and somebody will chime in. I don't know if I like the way Matty Devlin called that homer. It's not the same as Bucker or the other guy or Dan.
Yeah.
It's just like, shut up.
I know, man. Like it's obviously not going to be the same as the regular guy.
Yeah, just appreciate Matty D for being Matty D.
That's why he's filling in. Exactly. Like play-by-play is a different story. Color is maybe a different story.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I bet you take heat.
Oh, for sure.
You take heat. And people are waiting for you to mess up.
Oh, can't wait.
What'd you say? Like, I can't wait to tweet it.
The language police
You said he played for... It's like, okay, dude, sorry about that.
Exactly.
Totally innocuous comment in the second period of a meaningless
I find
game.
we get that a lot, too. It's like, you said that guy played junior for Lethbridge. It was Brandon. It's like, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Let us go back and edit that out of the podcast.
Yeah.
And we'll record Brandon instead of Lethbridge.
Yeah.
Our apologies. All right, Jay's off today. They're back. Not only are they back in it, statistically expected to make the playoffs.
Yeah, 79%.
79% chance of making the playoffs now. And I believe it was like 39% before game one against the Sox. And that's how crazy baseball can be. And we got a guy on the line that's very familiar with that. Former MLBer, MLB Network analyst, co-host of Beadle and Decker on Sirius XM. Here's Cody Decker making his debut here on OverDrive. What's happening, Cody?
Oh, living a Twilight Zone version of the dream. How you boys doing?
Yeah, we're doing all right. Good. We're doing better today up here in Toronto than we were on Friday. I got to be honest with you. Where the Jays, that 4-game sweep at the hands of Texas was as ugly of a sweep as I can remember in 20-plus years. And then they respond naturally by not only sweeping the Sox, Texas gets swept, Seattle gets swept, Houston drops 2 or 3 against Kansas City. Like, you live this lifestyle. Like, the swings of baseball, how do you possibly keep level-headed?
Oh, it's impossible to keep yourself level-headed when these swings happen, especially when you got the Mariners right now running into a buzzsaw of a tough schedule. They got to have that series in L.A. Now they're going to place a couple other series. This is a team that I did pick to make the playoffs before the season, but, of course, they had a terrible first half. Now, luckily, they come to life in the second half, but basically their schedule being what it is might be the final dagger that gets the Toronto Blue Jays into the playoffs. I thought it was going to be the Texas Rangers being on the outside looking in. Unfortunately for me, because Seattle was the team I kind of adopted before this year started, it looks like they're going to be the ones on the outside looking in. But the Blue Jays, hey, man, all they got to do is just get into October. They got the pitching staff to do enough damage.
Some of the pitchers are making statements like, if we can get everybody healthy and hitting and hot, nobody wants to play us. And it's like, I kind of like that comment, but I don't think it sends any shock waves throughout MLB. Do you believe that, though? Do you think if they can kind of a late surge here, they could get on a heater and cause some damage? I guess you could say that for everyone, but particularly with the Blue Jays, do you think it could happen?
I definitely think it could happen. I mean, the Philadelphia Phillies already showed us last year what they could do if your bat was hot at the right time. Last year, the Philadelphia Phillies were practically allergic to leather. It was the worst offensive team I had ever seen in my life, including teams that I was on. So trust me, it was a bad defensive team, but they could absolutely hit with the best of them, and their pitching was keeping them above water enough. Now, Blue Jays, they got the pitching to keep them more than above water. Barrios is kind of back to his old form before he joined the Blue Jays, which is a huge thing for them. Obviously, Gossman in the crazy year he's having. And Kikuchi is a guy who's always been a little bit inconsistent to me, but he's been putting together a pretty damn good year this season. So it's really up in the air. The offense on this team has been, honestly, a little bit, for me, disappointing. I picked Vladimir Guerrero. I thought for sure he was going to hit himself by accident 50 home runs after they moved in the fences the way they did. But, hey, he's still having a very good year. I'm just waiting for this whole offense to really take that step that we were expecting. Basically, everything we're seeing out of the Baltimore Orioles right now is what I was expecting for the Toronto Blue Jays for the last 2 seasons. Doesn't mean they're a bad team. They're a good team. They're just not great yet, and I'm waiting for that moment, that spark where they become great.
Yeah, it's been frustrating, the bats all year, because their clutch hitting has been absent. You know, running runners in scoring position has really, their statistics are putrid, and they have not been hitting for power. Yet they have guys, you know, through the lineup that have the capability of doing so. And this weekend in particular, you saw it on Friday. I mean, Barrios pitched a gem, and Vladdy hit a big 3-run home run. That's all they needed. They got a couple of home runs out of Vladdy this weekend. Varsho hit one. They have guys that are capable of doing it, and yet we're into the middle of September. And I think that's where people are stopping short up here in Toronto, where it's not that they can't make the playoffs. And their pitching's been great. Their bullpen's been good. It's that we keep saying it like weekly up here, Cody. Like, when are the power bats going to arrive? When is the clutch hitting going to arrive? And I'm curious if you believe that's something that can just magically happen over the course of a weekend, you know, a week, or by September 18th, you basically are who you are when it comes to the bats.
I honestly think they are who they are, but who they are is certainly enough to win ball games. If their pitching holds them above water, there's no reason offensively they can't go off. Whit Merrifield has done a great job this season, kind of turning himself into the player that he was in Kansas City. Dalton Varsho, I mean, I love Dalton Varsho. I think he brings a lot of versatility. I think he brings a lot of speed and a very interesting left-handed bat. But I was expecting a little bit more out of him this season. But that doesn't mean he's done. It doesn't mean he's having a bad season. But, yeah, this team has been a little disappointing as far as the offense goes. But again, the Phillies were in the exact same spot last year. They were a team that was underperforming all season long. They got hot at the right moment, and they carried that not only all the way through October, but they took the Houston Astros to the limit. And the Astros were by far a superior team than them last year. So to say that Toronto's got a shot, they got a shot. They just need to get into October, and their pitching needs to hold up. And quite frankly, they just need to catch a heater offensively. It's not, again, Bo Bichette could swing it. He's as good as anybody in baseball. Vladdy Jr. has got more pop than just about everyone in baseball. The problem with this team has been consistency. Now, you don't necessarily need to be consistent in October. You just more or less need to be lucky in October.
All right, we're chatting with Cody Decker.
What do you make of the Rays potentially getting a new stadium?
I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. The problem is that it's in St. Pete, and they're going to build another stadium in St. Pete. The problem is they can't get people to go to the field because St. Pete is such a pain in the ass to get to, and they really are going to sit here and tell us, we'll just build them a new stadium. No one goes to St. Pete. No one lives in St. Pete. It is the dumbest thing I've ever seen proposed in my life. Send them to Montreal.
Ooh, you think that would work in Montreal?
That.
We'd support that. I know people in Montreal would. I mean, you don't see that too often in pro sports. It happens occasionally where you
Wasn't
lose
the
a
idea
team
a
and
couple
someone
of
goes
years
back.
ago, like half and half, where it was that is
That is stupid. That is even dumber.
That is stupid.
That was the dumbest report in the history
Kids
of
in
reporting.
School, et cetera. That was dumb.
Never going to happen. A split between Montreal and Tampa.
The two-city thing is just not feasible. The players' union alone would never allow it to happen because you're uprooting players not just from one city to another, but from one country to another. It was nonsense that it was even a prospect. But, yeah, I think it's dumb. I think the Rays are nuts to do it. I do know Major League Baseball is very, very, very keen to getting back into Montreal, though. So whether it's going to be an expansion team or a team moving there, I thought, honest to God, the Rays were going to eventually end up moving there. But nothing can really happen for Major League Baseball expansion until the Rays and the A's situation was figured out. Now the A's are almost officially done for Vegas. Great. Now if we get some clarity on the Rays, we now know whether or not we're going to be expanding one or two teams. And I think Montreal is on the short list of those cities.
I'll tell you what, if you're like in your mid-20s and single and Vegas and Montreal could be added to the circuit, watch yourself. Like, those are two of the Hall of Fame party cities in the world.
I may have played AAA in Vegas and can completely confirm this.
Yes. Vegas would be dangerous, incredibly dangerous. And Montreal, I don't know how familiar you are with Montreal, Cody, but Montreal in the summer is a beast of a town.
It does well.
It is so much fun.
I swear to God, this is actually true. I'm glad you say that because I've been told this for years. Every single coach I ever played for, every coordinator that came into town, I've never been to Montreal. All I ever get are the greatest Montreal stories. I'm like, hey, man, of all the places you played, like, where did you like it? They always say Montreal. I'm like, dude, it's one of the greatest cities just in the world.
Yeah.
And, they also freely admit it's definitely a place where a young ball player who is single can easily get into trouble.
It's great. Well, because, I mean, I don't need to tell you this, but in North America, you can't find anything like it. Like, there's flair to it. It's got a European vibe. It's French-Canadian. It's wild. We got to get back to Montreal. We got to get the Expos back to Montreal.
Exactly.
Do you read anything into Shohei Otani not only being shut down for the year, but clearing out his locker? Like, is that common practice, or is that him saying, I'm out of here, I'm never returning to the Angels?
I've never seen this. Actually, to be honest, I've never really seen this happen. Now, the guy needs to go get a Tommy John surgery, whatever semblance that's going to be. And quite frankly, there's a 0% chance this guy ends up being an Angel again. I wouldn't read anything further into it other than his time with the Angels is over. And I don't think it has much to do with this. He's shut down for the year. There's no reason for him to be there. And if I'm him and his camp, he's in surgery tomorrow to get him ready as soon as humanly possible for next season because he's not going to be short on suitors. The question is, how much money is he going to actually be offered? You know, we've heard numbers like $500 million, $600 million thrown around, but now the guy's got to get his second Tommy John surgery in 5 years. I don't know if those numbers are going to still be there. However, it doesn't mean if he's just going to be offensive for a year, a team wouldn't easily throw $350 to $400 million this way. And you know Steve Cohen over in Queens is willing to throw any number at the guy. So this is going to be a very unique offseason, but I can't see a world where he doesn't sign with one of two teams, the Los Angeles Dodgers or the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are sitting around desperate for a star. They tried to get Aaron Judge last year. They got him, and it fell through last second. Same thing happened with Correa. They got him, and then it fell through last second. The Dodgers, they let go both Trey Turner and Justin Turner. They signed no one in the offseason, and they're still the Dodgers. Can you imagine this team with now that has money in their pockets because they decided to spend no money at all? They have plenty to go get their hands on Shohei Otani. So this is going to be a very interesting offseason when it comes to Shohei.
You mentioned the Angels, and who knows what's correct when this gets blurted out on Twitter, but they've approached Mike Trout, and if he's had enough, we'll try to make him happy. Do you think anything goes on with that?
I don't. I just don't see a world where they trade him because they already messed up. They already dropped the ball by not trading Ohtani. And maybe their idea of putting Trout out there is their way of basically making up for the fact that they didn't trade Ohtani, which I got to say is the biggest blunder I have seen in baseball in the last few years.
But if they do go to Trout and say, you can leave, will he say yes? Like, will he say, get me the hell out of here? Or?
You know, I know Mike a little, and I'd be lying if I said I knew the answer to this. I can't imagine. He seems a guy that seems pretty comfortable in his spot, but the guy is from the Philly area, so the obvious idea is, hey, man, would he be a great fit with the Phillies? And the answer is yes. There's not a single team in Major League Baseball that wouldn't want to get their hands on Mike Trout. He is arguably one of the best players, if not the best player of this generation, and maybe every other generation. He just needs to stay healthy. These last couple of years have been a bit of a challenge. But if he does say he wants to go and they float him out there, it's going to be chaos in the trade market.
Whew, it's a big contract, man, to take on. That's the thing. Like, as crazy as it sounds, I think they'd have to chew on a lot of the contract.
Really?
Yeah. Well, he's making over like $40 million a year for a long time, and he can't stay healthy. And he's over 30. Like, I love Mike Trout just as much as the next guy. Just if I'm an owner, I'm like, explain to me why this makes sense. I think you're getting like 50% of the games played tops for the rest of his career. He never stays healthy.
No matter what, the Angels are likely going to have to eat some money. But if they want to get their hands on prospects, which is something that organization doesn't have, keep in mind, when Perry, their GM, took over that organization, it was the most bare minor league system in baseball. He comes in, immediately drafts 20 pitchers and starts to build up that minor league system. And what do they do at the trade deadline? They go all in and they deplete what little they have in their minor league system. They're back to zero. They're back to a bare system. So if they want to get their hands on prospects through a Trout trade, they're going to have to eat a decent amount of that contract so they can just get their hands on a potential future.
He is Cody Decker, former MLBer. You can hear him on the MLB Network and, of course, on SiriusXM as well. Really appreciate you finding time for us, man. We'll do it again down the road.
Anytime, gents, anytime. Good luck to your Blue Jays.
Yes, thank you. Cody Decker. Yep,
Love
the
it.
Jays are off. Yeah, he's feeling the love up here in Toronto. Jays
And
are in
he
a
wants-
position where they can control their own destiny.
And he wants a team in Montreal.
And supports a team in Montreal.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And listen, he said that he's heard through the grapevine, like baseball would like to get back to Montreal. It just, if you're doing expansion, you need I think a second team somewhere else, like on the West Coast.
Right.
And I don't know who that would be. Like if we all expect Oakland going to Vegas, that's one thing, but they're not going to put an expansion team in Oakland.
No, the building's junk and
Yeah. Like I don't know where else they would be looking at possibly putting a team, like a market that's currently missing one, that maybe Nashville. I guess I've heard Nashville over the years, but
Dude, that would be so sick for MLB to get to Nashville.
I could get behind a Nashville.
imagine Vegas, Nashville, Montreal added to the circuit.
What about like a road trip, like a 4-pack in Nash? No, a 4-pack in Vegas, then hit up Nash for a 4-pack,
Ooh.
and then end it in Montreal for a 4-game set. You'd die on the way
Bernie
home.
Lomax on the way home.
There'd be some guys struggling for sure.
The hangovers, like the guy, like those are legit. I've been to all three places. We all have. Although, have you been to Nashville? I don't know if you. I think you played there. Of course, you played in Nashville, but those are three of the top 5 North American spots. I think.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Montreal, Nashville, Vegas, got to be in your top 5, top 10 for sure.
See, I'm not a Mardi Gras guy. I went one year.
Never been to New Orleans.
No, I have no interest. I watch a ton of true crime, and there's some.
Well, it's
there's
a
some
gritty
weird
city.
ass
You go-
stuff going on there, man.
True crime, making your call on Mardi Gras.
Well,
That's a ridiculous statement.
basically you watch that show, that first 48. It's
I'll get some
48
clips.
hours.
I'll get some clips for
Go
you.
ahead.
48
It
hours.
always turns out, outside it's like you're
At Mardi Gras,
goof.
guys are walking down the street in Mardi Gras. That's
Dude.
what the first 48 I thought they were in like Oklahoma City and Memphis. And
Dude, they're everywhere. They're in New Orleans. So Google it.
I understand New Orleans can be a bit gritty.
But apparently,
Yes.
Every American city is gritty.
I went
Getting
for
your
2
head
nights.
blown off walking outside of a street market, having a pint in your hand is more than a little bit gritty.
Yeah, it's well. I mean, the shows that you're watching obviously shine a light on that type of stuff, which is not good. But yeah,
What is this guy defending New Orleans downtown now?
No,
Like,
I'm defending the stupidity of basing the reputation of a city on the first 48 hours.
the first 48 hours
Like,
of a murder show.
Yeah, obviously, if you commit to a show like that, guess what? Something's going to happen.
Yes.
I've just seen enough. It's like scouting a player. I've seen enough.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've got
Okay.
something for you guys. I'm going to pivot it back. This Connor Bedard looks like the real deal. Did you see him shoot the
He
puck the
had
other
3
night?
snipes in a rookie game. though.
I know.
I
Against
stop.
junior goalies.
You guys are going to
Against
apologize.
junior goalies.
No one's
guys aren't gonna
apologizing for it.
apologize.
He's not scoring 50 and 38 because he scored 3 at the rookie tournament.
I understand
I mean, can
that.
everyone relax?
You're right, 100%. But what I'm saying is, this kid, that release, like in watching it,
It's crazy good.
He's going to score some goals.
How many Rockets do you think he'll win in his career?
5.
Don't know. No. Keep in mind that you're playing
Okay,
against
sorry.
the field.
I was so egregious when I said that. 4.
4 Rockets?
I'm telling you
He
guys,
very
you
well
didn't
could.
believe me, and now you're starting to. I can't wait until Christmas when he's got 25 goals, and you guys were like,
He's not going to have 25 by
Come
Christmas.
on, he's going to get 40 this year. He's a rookie that can score 40. That will score 40.
He could score
goals.
40. He could score 40. I could see him 40,
Okay,
25
well,
assists.
you moved off. You're a moron, O-Dog. You moved off that.
But I haven't been disputing his
No,
talent.
he said he was 100.
No, every time I said this guy could get 100 points and score 40 goals this year, you guys are like,
I
this
don't
guy
think he can
doesn't
score
even
100.
watch the NHL.
I don't
He's on
think-
drugs.
I don't think he can score 100. I don't think he can put 100 points on
All
the
I
board.
said is I thought those numbers were rich, but what I brought to the forefront, and we got to go, is the kid's going to score some goals in the
Sure,
state,
he's gonna
regardless
score.
of because
He's going to be a great player.
yeah, and I'm
Great
excited
player.
to watch him. I think this
Yes.
is going to be good for the league.
It's the same thing on why you don't have the Stones to excel in segments, like with percentage.
Why? Because I don't make outlandish
No,
comments?
you don't know. You don't know the info,
Like
and
Mardi
you don't
Gras
make the right.
sucks because I sit on my couch
And watch a
and
murder
watch a
and-
murder show and make a determination on a whole city. I think that's outrageous.
If you said private bird on me, golf, New Orleans, nightlife, I'd say enjoy your time with other friends.
That's crazy comment. New Orleans is a great city. Come on. Like, I've never been there, but I'm sure it's great.
Spent
Mardi
2
Gras is
nights.
great.
2 nights was enough.
You've done 2 nights in
2
New
nights
Orleans?
at Mardi Gras.
Yeah, sure. It's a great place.
It was gritty.
I support New Orleans. Get the NHL to New Orleans. Get
do
baseball
that.
to New Orleans. Maybe that's where they go, MLB. Montreal, New Orleans. Forget Nashville. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. Johnny was out playing golf today at the Maple
Alumni
Leaf
Club.
Alumni. He's an alumni that was invited to the Maple Leaf Alumni Tournament. Catch up with Johnny, get his take on what Ryan Reaves had to say about how loud the room's going to be now. That and more still to come. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. A couple of Monday Nighters tonight. I love the double whammy Monday Nighter. I'm pretty sure they're doing it next week. There's a two-pack of games next week on Monday.
I love it. A staggered starts.
Staggered start, I think, at 7 o'clock and like an 8:15, 8:30.
Dude, do it every week, man. People love it. It's just they can't get enough of it. Do
I
it
know.
every week.
It's coming. The NFL's coming where it's going to be Friday night, they
Dude,
won't.
they'll jack Saturdays off of college football and not give a crap.
I don't think they will because the networks, college football does such massive numbers.
Oh, dude, they do massive numbers.
Like if you're ESPN, if you're Fox, CBS, you're like,
Yeah.
we don't want you messing with that. We have that. We're good. But Friday night, we can talk. Like at some point, that's
well,
coming.
Friday night's big college too, man.
They can be in high school ball in the States too, right? Like locally, you
Put it
get
this
you get to
way.
the fall in like Texas. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday football.
Yeah, but you could, like the NFL, they can put a game anytime.
Yeah.
People will watch.
Well, they're coming for Christmas. Like they've told the NBA, like that's not your day anymore. They're going to have football
And
games on
that's
Christmas.
all they need to say.
Yes, it's not your day anymore. Thanks for coming out, but we are going to own that now.
Yep.
And it sounds like Ryan Reaves is trying to let everyone know that that's his room, and he hasn't even been in it yet.
Love
Because he was speaking with the media today, and he's like, I think he said it's not going to be a quiet room anymore, which surprises me a little bit. Like, how would he know what the room,
Well, somebody probably told him and said, like, it's a morgue in there.
I guess. But let's head to the golf tournament now.
Yeah, the
Maple
alumni.
Leaf alumni.
The alumni.
Joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's Mike Johnson. What's up, Johnny?
Oh, where are you? I don't understand what's happening. I feel like it's the Carolina's welcome back song again. You should
Right.
be out here.
Yeah.
It seems totally
Oh, really?
inappropriate that you're not here
What
Agreed.
time was the after golf stuff starting?
right now.
Yeah, well, I have a thing called OverDrive that I have to do, so
Yeah, I think you could have spun it as though you're doing research for future OverDrive shows with all the contacts and communication you could have had today.
That's right. It's a good point. He does, Johnny makes a very valid point, and this does have flashbacks of going back to Carolina and not getting the montage
Well, I'm sure
video.
he was invited. He turned it down, saying, "I've got to work. Sorry, I can't
that's
do it."
exactly how the transaction went, Jamie.
Oh,
Here
you're
it
a
is. I
professional.
said I have a job.
Okay.
Your professionalism is. I was just. You don't want to name drop, so I'm not going to. But I was just talking to Shane Doan, one of my old teammates, and Brandon Shanahan, and the grappler called, and I showed them the phone, like I got to go, it's OverDrive. And Shanahan's like, just rolled his eyes, like, okay, have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
He just turned around and walked away from me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Good on
talk
ya.
to the grappler before you come on here. Well,
Yeah.
we were talking about Ryan Reaves and him saying that it's not going to be a quiet room anymore. What do you make of that comment and what we can expect out of Reaves and how much access we'll have to how loud he's actually going to be in there?
Well, we'll put Masters Nation outside, see if we can pick up. But I mean, I guess if you were to say, now we're nitpicking semantics, but if you were to say, hey, it's not going to be a quiet room, it's going to be full of energy and full of emotion, that's not saying it wasn't that way. That's just saying the way it's going to be. But when you say it's not going to be a quiet room anymore, you are saying it was quiet previously, and that was not the ideal way for it to be, which may be true. And maybe that he's spoken to his teammates about that. Maybe, part of the reason he's in there is to add some personality and some color. But
it would sort of feel like an indictment if you're one of the guys who were there previously, especially if you're an important player that sort of sets the tone and temperature of a room. Like, hang on, like, I know you're important and you're a new player and you're a prominent player, the role you have, but like, you don't want to come in and start slinging arrows about the way it was, because the way it was, while it hasn't won a Stanley Cup, they've been pretty successful.
Johnny, he talks about changing, like I say, being a little bit louder and, a bigger voice in the room. You're around the room all the time. You're in between the benches. You have interaction with them. Like, is it something where it's a scenario where he's a bigger personality? Because I'm trying to think of even last year's team, and let's take the core, for example. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of them are raw, big, loud guys. I think Mitch is a big personality, but I'm not sure how that translates in the dressing room because I'm not there. But don't you think a guy like Reaves, who's very outspoken, obviously we've seen one of my favorite tricks of his online is, remember when he scared Phil Kessel when he was wearing that mask? Mm-hmm. Like, you could tell he's a guy who's a big personality, likes to joke around. That's probably where he's going. But don't you think that mix in the room would help? Because you know a lot of the guys. I don't know who is the big personality if it isn't Ryan Reaves.
Yeah, absolutely, Jamie. I mean, he there is a need, probably every dressing room needs one of those guys or a few of those guys who kind of, if I was a quiet guy, you need someone to add to the energy, to the volume, to what the room feels like, and he will do that. I think Michael Bunting, who's no longer here, brought a lot of that. I think Ryan O'Reilly, in a more serious way, brought a lot of volume and leadership to the room. Obviously, Austin and Tavares and John and all those guys do it as well, but it's probably more in their nature to be introverted or kind of just focus on themselves, focus on their line, as opposed to necessarily bring the entire group together. And maybe Ryan Reaves. Like, I know in Minnesota, when Bill Guerin brought Ryan Reaves to Minnesota, he said out loud, "We have too many quiet guys in our room." Bill Guerin said this, and we need to amp up the volume. So we went and got one of the loudest guys. I mean that respectfully, one of the loudest guys in the league to add to that. And I think, maybe a little of that sentiment is true. And so I think Ryan Reaves knows that just doing what he does better than anyone else in the league, which is fighting, is not enough, because he just doesn't get to fight that often because he is so tough. Nobody will fight him. So he's got to, impact and influence the team in other ways, which I think in the dressing room, on the road, that kind of stuff will be part of it as well.
The general manager came out, Johnny, and said we need to add some snot to this operation, and he wanted to spin around the game, kind of have an appreciation for what that is and what it means. But if you were to candidly ask Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and William Nylander, like, what do you think they make of the added snot? Do you think they're fans of it? Are they jacked up about it? Or what do you think they think?
I think they think, I want some snot who can play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think those guys, I think they all appreciate the value of being physical or being greasy, being chippy, being emotional. But I think they also are of the school of hockey players, like, but we got to be able to play. Like, it's not enough just to be chippy. Like, we need chippy guys who can play. And that's why everyone loves the rare player, Tom Wilson, Brad Marchand, maybe Tyler Bertuzzi, guys who can play, and also Max Domi, when he's at his best, can really play and also do the other thing. And I think that's the sort of reaction you would get from those guys. Is they know it's important, but they got to be able to play. And I think with Bertuzzi and Domi, they have the chance to have a couple guys that'll play prominent roles, will be on the ice with those other players, but also bring the chippiness.
What's the buzz like around the alumni tournament? All the players are there. You mentioned Shanahan's there, Doan's there with Mike Babcock. How often is his name coming up?
It's like the first thing everyone says, Hayes. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And it's, some of the people that work with him for the Leafs, with the Leafs, they're a little bit more guarded in their commentary still, just because that's the nature of it. But everyone is met with an eye roll and a what the heck, and what is this guy doing, and what an idiot, like that sort of commentary, and didn't learn, and that stuff doesn't fly, and that sort of, because it's still so topical, maybe even more so here because he was involved in the Leafs for so long recently. The whole hockey world still kind of buzzing about it and almost in disbelief of that it went down this way, like that he went and however egregious the misstep was. He obviously misstepped in some capacity, and he didn't clear it with HR or his boss or thought, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like, it's just amazing that they ended up here. But the other part is that a lot of people have been mentioning, and I frankly agree, is two parts to like the Columbus, like, so Babcock's going to disappear, or he's going to disappear, he's going to go back to Saskatchewan and whatever. But for the people still in Columbus, like, one, why did they make the decision they made to go with him when you knew something like this could happen? But maybe more importantly, when they so forcefully denied the allegation as being meritless, forcefully, immediately, and then what is it, 5 days later, you're firing the coach or whatever because of it? Like, I think there's something to be unpacked there. Like, hang on, like, why didn't you just say we're investigating? Because obviously there is something there, and you attack the initial source of the Spit and Chicklets guys when they were, it seems, closer to right than your denial was accurate.
Well, that's the interesting part of, a potential fallout that isn't going to happen right now. Like, the owner of Columbus came out and said, Davidson's back, Kekalainen's back. Mm-hmm. And his explanation for why they're back was more, we don't want to distract the players even more than they've already been distracted, which I found somewhat of a kind of curious way of phrasing it. Not like I fully support the guys. It's that if I get rid of them too, then it's a complete gong show.
Right.
Like, it would be right now, Hayes, to be honest with you. Deserve it or not, it would be a gong show to not have those people in place along with no head coach.
Sure. And again, I don't know exactly what went into the vetting process, how the GM was involved, the president was involved, what their angling was when it came to either supporting Babcock or pushing Babcock out. I don't have the access to that behind the scenes. And quite frankly, it looks like the NHLPA is the one that really pushed this forward, not Columbus, not the NHL. It was the PA.
Like that's a question that the Columbus should answer for as well then. Like,
sure.
Why does the PA got to come in here and talk to your younger players and have them say we're not comfortable if that's how it went? I don't know if we'll ever find this stuff out. And then one other part of this, Hayes, is, Boone Jenner is in a bit of a quagmire. Who's like a respected guy and a good career, and he maybe spoke to his experience about it not bothering him, whatever happened with Babcock, or maybe he went with the company line. I don't know. But part of being a captain is when this comes up, don't you think you got to take a poll of, like, you got to talk to the other guys in your team. Hey, did something like this happen to you? How did you feel about it? And maybe not attach yourself to the very quick blanket denial on your experience when clearly other players on your team were uncomfortable with the exchange. And I think, not that Boone Jenner has, it's Mike Babcock. It's not Boone Jenner who did anything wrong, but just it puts him in a kind of a tricky spot, with all the questions he's going to be asked by the media, perhaps with some of his teammates. I don't know. It's just he's in a tough spot as well because, I guess he didn't have a real pulse on how his teammates, the young guys, were feeling about it.
Yeah, and you guys can speak to it as, captains in the room and leaning on that. Like, I don't question Jenner not having an issue with Babcock asking for his phone or pictures, right? Like, everyone's individually allowed to basically assess the situation the way they choose to. Now, I don't know if he was coerced into the statement or wording it the way he worded it,
right.
But Boone Jenner... There's nothing wrong with Boone Jenner saying, I didn't have a problem with it. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Right.
But I'm curious, like, if you guys felt like, is it on Jenner to call all the players and get their answer? You think it is his job?
I think it is.
Really?
My whole thing, Johnny, is I'm glad that a full investigation was done, period. Because, we're seeing, and we were talking about today's world compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and all of that. At least there has been some due diligence. Now, Columbus was pretty quick to dismiss. Again, we're not privy to all the details behind the scenes. The only thing, and I'm not defending Boone Jenner, you're right. You need to know your players. You need to have that relationship. Maybe you didn't have if it's somebody that he doesn't have a relationship with yet, that's a young player that's making the team, then maybe that's where the mistake was made or the communication was cut off. That's the only thing I can think of. But ultimately, you're the captain of the team. You kind of get a consensus. and move forward after that. It was kind of a quick dismissal, and then all of a sudden the PA steps in and goes, "Oh, well, hold on a second."
Also, and again, we don't know all the facts, but who's to say a young player also wouldn't feel somewhat intimidated by Boone Jenner?
Listen, Hayes, you're correct. Absolutely. Like, listen, if I was a rookie and Matt Sundin said, "Hey, Mike, did that bug you?" I'm like, "No, man, I'm good. Nothing."
Right, exactly.
Right? Like, you don't want to seem like you're whiny or you're whatever.
You don't want to show weakness. You don't want to be like, "Oh yeah, I can't handle that guy asking."
Yeah,
I don't know.
But I think part of the captain's job, especially when something like this comes up, like, he can't have the pulse on every single person's life. He's got enough of his own life to worry about in career. But when something like this comes up, ideally, you would be a good enough communicator to be able to sit down with someone you don't know and make them feel comfortable to try to get an honest reaction. And maybe he did, and they weren't able to give it, and that's fine. And he did everything he could. But it just, again, it sparks this conversation, and that might be a hard one for him.
Yeah. I'm curious where this still goes. Pascal Vincent is now the head coach by default.
Welcome to your first job.
Wild.
Congratulations.
Man.
He's a great dude. I know him from Winnipeg. He's a fantastic guy. He's waited a long time. He's been close several times, but it's hardly an optimal situation. But I think Columbus, the whole thing, their whole kind of decision-making process last few years, months, is sort of cloaked in desperation because they had such a bad year. And they know they got to turn it around, so they went out and got Babcock. Even though there obviously would have been question marks about whether that would be a right fit for him, but they want to be good so badly that they wanted Babcock for the results, regardless of everything else. This is why they defended him so quickly. Like, it felt kind of forced, the decision to even hire him, because they were so desperate to get a better result on the ice.
Yeah, that's the truth. They were blinded by the winning history of Mike Babcock behind the bench, and as a result, chose to be ignorant to everything else that comes with him.
Yep.
And, it's abundantly clear now, Mike Babcock was never changing, never thought he did anything wrong, never thought he had to. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's sitting there bitter thinking he's getting screwed over here. I would not be surprised at all.
Well, he might, but he's got, even if the buyout is a quarter, so he signed a 2-year, $8 million, so even if they gave him $2 million to just resign and go away,
$2 million to show up.
That means
we talked about it though, Johnny. Like, what an ending for a guy that could have walked down any hockey community type of environment, and somebody said, "There's one of the greatest coaches ever," and instead it'll just be a walk of shame to some degree.
Yeah.
Think about the Hall of Fame, maybe.
There's no Hall of Fame.
I'm not sure he's getting in now.
No, I'm saying, but if none of this happened, he probably gets into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. And I don't think he gets in there now. I don't think so.
Well on his way. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, we'll let you get back to the schmooze fest out there. Say hi to everyone for us.
All right, guys. Oh, we miss you desperately.
There you go. Next year he'll be there.
We're out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Mike Johnson, our TSN Hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota, and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. It's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com. Come back with our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Doubleheader Monday nighter tonight. We love it. We'll tee it up next. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Chris Olave, 40-plus receiving yards tonight. George Pickens, 40-plus receiving yards tonight. Nick Chubb, anytime TD, paying plus 307. Love that parlay tonight. 2 games to play from. You got something from the New Orleans game, something from the Steelers-Browns game. We love it. Check that out. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Same-game parlays this NFL season now include passing touchdowns and receptions on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. Must be 19-plus and physically located in Ontario. Want to give a shout-out to the PWHL. They had the draft today.
Yep.
Thought everyone did a phenomenal job. Like, it was really, obviously it did a great job of building it up. And, TSN was well represented down there.
I hope they hit the ground running.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like they're building a lot of momentum. Obviously, it helps with all the stars there. Brian Burke helping out.
Sure.
Not even helping out, being the head. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a good start. And that's what's needed, right? And now once you get to the games, you get to training camp, they're still going to have free agency. There's still a number of things that you still have to overcome before you actually get to puck drop. But it is ultimately about building momentum and staying on the front lines of the story. And, it started with the draft earlier today.
I want to give a shout-out, Hazy, to Steve Jackson from St. George's. He holed out 3 times in a big tourney there from over 220.
Whew. You're kidding. At St. George's in Toronto?
Yes. Like one was for double eagle on a par 5. He holed out 3 times in the same round with a jacked up toe.
You're kidding.
Stevie, that's unbelievable. And all the boys at St. G's love you.
Yeah. That's outstanding.
Tomorrow to start the show, I need you to define jacked up toe. Like a bad turf toe or something?
Probably.
No, he had I'm not going to show you the picture of the guy's toe, but it was all whacked out. Like he could barely stand up, and this guy's a plus 5.9 handicap at St. G's.
Wow.
Love it.
That's a golfer, man.
Yeah.
You hold that's a miracle round, clearly, but everything worked out beautifully.
Good.
I've also gotten warning from my buddy Mully, who's an Englishman, says don't even think that it's a cakewalk for the Americans at the Ryder Cup. And I said,
it's
what?
not. Molly knows what he's talking about. I love the Europeans. Rick Hovland.
We'll get into
John
it next
Rahm.
week.
Yeah, we got a lot. Don't worry. Next week.
You love the Europeans.
I love Europe at the Ryder Cup. The Americans can't win on European turf. It can't happen. All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out today. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in. Radio, TV, podcast, web. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
USA all the way, 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.